Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Well, today was going to start off having Happy Shroom up there. That was my full intentions while I was sitting up, drinking my morning coffee, relaxing, seeing what was going on. I must have missed this yesterday. And I'm rather irritated myself that I did. But I saw it this morning. Scroll up here to the top. Biden team may partner with private firms to monitor extremist chatter online. You have got to be kidding me. And it's not what you and I would call extremists. They're not the extremists that I'm talking about. It's not that extremists. The extremists they're talking about are you and I. People to the right of Biden. Honestly, people that think the election had enough tampering with, enough questions raised about it, that a real investigation needs to happen. It won't, but a real investigation does need to happen. I watched this little video that they've got here. And all right, that is what they're talking. Two instances. Two. They are completely ignoring the months and months of left-wing violence. They're blaming it all on the right wing. They could pick out two incidences. And one of them, the kidnapping of Gretchen Whitmer, that was by a group so stupidly small. I think there were 6 people in the whole group. But it's being conflated into the rest of us that disagree with this administration. What in the hell? Now, I'm really interested is what they mean by far right wing terrorists. The only people I've seen doing a violence in the country have been left wingers. I don't understand, and they're going back to since 9/11 of 01. They're going back 20 years. So who in the hell are they talking about? What groups are they talking about? Okay, and how many people have been hurt and injured by the left-wing protesters in the past year? They're not. They don't. You notice they don't bring that up. You notice they're not talking about the left-wing groups. They're comparing what they're calling far right-wing to jihadists. They're not talking about the left-wing groups that are protesting and have been protesting this past year. And I'll make a bet that they're including the kid in Wisconsin. Man, I can't remember his name right now. The one that shot the bicep off of that one guy. He killed the two pedos that were chasing him down. I'll make a bet they're including him. I'll make a bet they're including that guy that shot up from the hotel room at the music festival. I'll make a bet they're including him as a right-wing terrorist instead of a solo nut. Or how about any of these movie theater attacks? Yeah, I'll make a bet those are the people that they're including. They don't tell you who they're including. They don't say who they're including. They just say, well, the groups that we consider far right-wing, this is what they've done. Who are these far right-wing groups? And where's the proof that it's that is a part of a coordinated attack? And they're going to, as if the deep state didn't exist. As if the deep state didn't exist, working again. Groups were admitting, people were admitting in the State Department that they were working against Trump. We had military officers admitting they were working against Trump. There were groups within the federal government, groups within the DOJ, within the FBI, within the CIA, who admitted that they were working against Trump. Yes, there were organized groups within the federal government working against Trump. Okay, so now here they are. They're going to bring in Parler and Gab and the other groups that's not Facebook or Twitter that allow left-wing groups to spread whatever they want to spread and shut down anybody on the right. Okay, and there were people who helped plan that. Some of them were from Antifa. That's not going to be brought up here. Remember that character, the Antifa guy who was wearing a Trump hat, but on the radio and egging on the going into the White House or going into the Capitol building, rather? Yeah, Ryan, you're right. I'm sorry. I don't have two screens, and I probably may try to split screens here. But yeah, Kyle Rittenhouse, thank you. This is how angry I am right now after watching this morning. I couldn't even remember his name. And by the way, good morning. Good morning to you. I'm infuriated with this right now. How in the hell? And this is where, again, going back to my constant drumbeat, the media, how the media hurts America, how the media, by their lies and the way that they present stories and what stories they present and what they don't present, how they talk about the individuals, how that colors what the masses think. There was a tweet earlier by the Democrats. Let's see if I can find my response to it, because I did respond to it. That the first 100 days, a comparison of the first 100 days of Biden to Trump. And Trump's numbers was 47% approval, and Biden's numbers was like 62%. And they're, look how much better Biden is doing. And my response to that was along the lines of, yeah, it sure helps when you have a positive and supportive press pushing your administration versus a press that is constantly negative and downgrading and depreciating your administration. How much better your numbers can be. Yeah. Try to tell me the press doesn't push and pull and have a favorite team. They do. And they're pushing Biden now. And they're doing everything they can to hurt Republicans. Yes, constantly comparing the conservatives to jihadist terrorists. Oh, that's going. Oh, as if that isn't intentional. Yeah, I'm curious about that. Who are they talking about? What groups are they talking about? This is ridiculous. Oh, okay, I got back this up here for just a second. I stopped it too soon. You damn lying son of a bitch. The Charlottesville terrorist attack, a protest. A protest. And what did Trump say? There are good people on both sides, but he intentionally excluded the neo-Nazis that were there. But this Peter Bergen is helping to conflate conservatives with terrorists. What? And pushing the damn lie. Pushing the lie. Getting it out there. Again, white supremacy terrorism. Where is the white supremacy terrorism in this country? There isn't. There isn't. And the left wing, and the times that left wingers have taken over the Capitol and had sit-ins. Now, I'm not excusing what those guys did. I am not excusing. I don't agree with this, with the damage they did to the building. That's wrong. That is wrong. And anybody that actually destroyed government property, destroyed the public property, should be properly punished. Let me get that out there. But it's not the first time that people have gone into the Capitol to protest. It's not the first time. It's usually left-wing groups that have done it. This is the first time I can remember large crowds of groups supporting a conservative or anybody besides a left-winger having taken over or protested like this. And after 18 months or more of the left-wing protests, I don't understand it. I don't understand how they're getting why they think they can get away with it. Well, I know why they think they can get away with it. Because they're the media. CNN, the most trusted name in news. Right. Trusted if you're brain dead and you only want to hear one side of the news. And now with Acosta, calling Fox News the bullshit factory. How did CNN let that comment get out without apologizing for it? No. I saw that this morning, and I mean, I was just sitting here, and I was just enjoying myself. I was reading an article about Canadian bacon and something called beef bacon. Never heard of beef bacon before. And, I was relaxing. I was having a good time. It was a happy shroom for me. It was a happy shroom. And now, all of a sudden, I see that. Oh. I'm absolutely, I am absolutely just, it's a good thing I don't have high blood pressure. It really is. I'm reading down here in this article, besides, okay, the video was bad enough. But then we come down here, right, to how to address this. This leaves the Biden administration with the key question: how to address mistakes made during the Trump administration and finding ways to respond as blatant failures by intelligence groups. All right. I've got, where was it? A legal workaround. Here we go. If they can find willing external partners that would help provide access to private groups on these encrypted apps, DHS and its federal partners, including the FBI, would be able to legally identify potential domestic terrorists and access information it could use to investigate efforts. In other words, get around the Fourth Amendment. Hire civilians to do it for them and report it. Sort of like, we'll use the post office and then to surf the net looking for things. Because who would ever think of the post office as violating anybody's rights? FBI Director Christopher Wray has been emphatic that the Bureau does not investigate ideologies. Bull. I don't believe that for a moment. I do not believe that for a moment. They are going after conservative groups. problems in Portland. But they don't go after anybody in Portland. They're not going at they're running ads on Twitter and Facebook. The FBI is running ads on Twitter and Facebook. Do you know who this is? Tell us who this is. They were one of the people that led the insurrection on January 6th, and we want to prosecute them. But they're not doing that for what's happened in Portland and out west. I don't see him going out there. The department sent an analyst to Portland. Adam Schiff, shit for brains, revealed DHS that protects federal property had requested analysts to extract data from phones seized from protesters without a warrant. The request went unfulfilled. But I'll make a bet that if those requests had been for any conservatives, for what happened on January 6th, Schiff's secret testimony that still hasn't been released during the first Trump impeachment. How many lies was Schiff caught in? We have proof. I've seen the proof with my eyes about the collusion with Russia. I couldn't trust Schiff any further than I could pick that bastard up and throw him, and I wouldn't touch him with a 10-foot pole. No, I don't believe this. I don't believe that they're actually investigating what's going on in Portland. At least not in the same manner that they've been investigating the January 6th. I'm yelling at the sky. I'm an old man yelling at the sky. The government wants to pay others to spy on us. Why? Oh, I can't get. Is this country that doomed? Are we really and truly that doomed? Are we? But anybody protesting this move by the government is going to be looked as supporting insurrection. I don't support insurrection. I support us being back to America, back before the liberal masses and the communism, before all this divisiveness has happened to us. I'm just absolutely and totally flabbergasted by all this. I don't understand it. It bothers me to no end. Oh, God, what are we doing? What are we allowing to happen to this country? What are we doing here? I can't. I just don't understand it. Why are we doing this? Why are we doing this to us? And see, on top of this, I've got to find the tweet here. I wasn't really expecting. I initially hadn't even wasn't even going to come online today because I did have a doctor's appointment this morning that got canceled yesterday afternoon. They canceled it because of problems at the doctor's office. I'm trying to find this post again that I made. No. Well, it's not showing it. Okay. Earlier I talked about what had whoops. Hit the wrong button. Okay. Earlier I mentioned the poll put out by the Democrats. And here it is. I found my morning, Professor Chaos. How you doing today? But here's that poll that they put out. Trump's first 100 days, 47%. Biden's first 100 days, 67%. Okay. And then here's my response. It's amazing how constant supportive press and negative press can influence polls, isn't it? Yeah, with all the positive press Biden's gotten, his numbers really aren't that much higher than Trump's were, are they? Perhaps the increase in cost of living has had an effect on it. He's only 17 points higher. There's no way. His numbers should be really much higher. And especially the way that they have a tendency to poll heavily Democratic areas. They don't really poll equal numbers of people, equal groups. And here's another one here by Rep. Ilhan. Every person in America should have the right to a guaranteed housing, universal health care, living wage, and a quality standard of living. Okay, notice how she starts this off. Every person in America. All right. She's not talking every citizen. She's including illegals in this. My response, every person, we can't even help U.S. citizens, let alone the illegals and so-called refugees. First, let's get all the illegals and refugees out of the country. Let's look after our citizens first. Our supply of money is not endless. We're not a socialist or communist country. These are all communist standards. This is the goal of communism, socialism. And it's not, and people think, well, we're going to elevate everyone up higher. Bull, you can't elevate everyone. All you can do is lower the standard for most to meet the lowest standards. What we're doing, what in the hell are we doing? Hey, Professor Chaos, I'm sorry if you left. I have to apologize for not greeting you when you came in, but I was on another screen. I only use my laptop. I don't have a second. I probably ought to get a second screen for this laptop so I can see what's going on. Oops. But somebody have some good news. Is there any good news out there for today? Is there any good news? I really wish. Well, there was the one bit of good news that uh, I think it was Oklahoma banned CRT, critical race theory, from being taught in their schools. That's a piece of good news. That's something I can live with. Nobody's lives are going to be improved in this country by teaching a constant divisiveness. Nobody's life is going to be improved by teaching these people are, because their skin is white, they're automatically racist. Because their skin is white, they're automatically privileged. Because their skin is white, they're oppressors. All that's doing is teaching racism. That's all that's doing. But that's what these people want to teach. This is what these people are preaching. This is what they're yelling from the mountaintops. This is where we're not uniting people. We're dividing people. And what happens to people like me and the majority of white Americans? We get angry. We get frustrated. And soon we're yelling back. And then what happens? We start getting labeled as the far right. We start getting labeled as terrorists. We start getting all racist and sexist and yada, yada, yada. When we're none of that. We're just tired of being called it. We're not bad people. I don't want to see people hurt. I don't want to see people living in poverty. I don't want to see people being abused or taken advantage of because of their race, the color of their skin, and for the most part, even for their religion. Are there things that I disagree with out there and that I don't want to see happen? Yes. Yes. I don't want to see us become a socialist country. I don't want to see us become a communist country. I don't want to see us being mob ruled. I don't want to see the government finding workarounds to the Constitution. I don't want to see that. The government is supposed to be constrained by the Constitution. And they should not be trying to find a way to work around it. We can't do this, but we can pay someone else to do it. Or we can go in partnership with someone else. And we'll make certain we don't pass laws to hurt them. Or we'll tell our regulators to leave them alone. Or we'll change the laws to help them. That's not what we're supposed to be doing as a country. That's not what we're supposed to be doing. The government closest to the people is supposed to be the most powerful. The federal government is supposed to be the weakest. We're supposed to be a union of 50 states. We're not supposed to be an oligarchy. We're not supposed to be a monarchy. We're not supposed to have an all-powerful centralized government. But we're deadly close to that. We're deadly close to having a centralized government that is so powerful that it can and will ignore the Constitution without fear by spreading fear. We're not allowing the people to do what we're supposed to do. You don't want to hear this. All right, I'm sorry, I'm back. We are not we the Constitution's gone. At this point, we might as well say we don't even have a Constitution anymore because there's no constraints on the federal government. And that is a problem. Who and what? I don't know. I don't know anymore. Does anybody have an idea? Oh, the last person just left. I'm sitting in here yelling at the sky by myself, which is fine with me. I'm saying what I want to say, and I'm saying it out loud. How I'm saddened. I am truly saddened by this. I'm angered by this. And I can't be the only one. I can't be the only one out here that's angry that this is going on. Can anybody say that we are living by the Constitution anymore? Can anybody say that our government wants to follow the Constitution? When they come out and fully admit that they are going to try to find workarounds to violate people's rights? And let me rephrase that. To violate United States citizens, to violate our rights. This is where they're asking, begging for problems. They think that they're going to solve problems and eradicate the opposition by doing this. They're not going to. It's not going to be a case of happiness, they're not going to get what they want or what they claim that they want. It's not going to happen. What are they going to get? They're going to get more problems. They're going to get an overbearing government that will intrude into every part of their lives. Now, for the people at the top, everything is honky-dory for them. While they're at the top, they've got their fancy houses. They've got their armed guards. They've got their meals made by professional chefs. They've got, their fancy clothes. They've got everything they want. They've got their hidden bank accounts with millions and millions of dollars in them. They've got people fawning all over them, kowtowing, kissing their feet, as long as they're at the top and in power. But they all have to give up the power sooner or later because they grow old and weak and feeble-minded. Like the man that we got in there as president now. Feeble-minded. We're not going to be the country that we should be as long as we allow this to happen. We're just not going to be it. We've got to take back our control. We've got to get our government back under control and under the limitations set up by the Constitution. I don't know anymore. I'm just confused. I'm concerned. I've been ranting on this now for about 43 minutes. And I'm just as angry and scared now as I was then. I'm not going to say I'm defeated, but I don't see how we are going to get around this. I don't see how there's an end to this when the government is so bold as to come out and fully admit that they're finding ways to work around the Constitution. When they take people who disagree with them and their policies and compare us to some of the worst people on the planet. They compare us to the people that killed 3,000 Americans and started a 20-year war, while totally ignoring those who have been causing millions and millions of dollars worth of damage over the past 18 months. We're not the enemy of this country. We're not. We're not the ones trying to destroy this country. We're not the ones trying to burn down federal buildings with federal agents inside. We're not the ones taking to the streets every night yelling and throwing firebombs. That's not us. We're not the ones doing it. That's the left doing it. That's the Antifa doing it. That's Black Lives Matter doing it. But the media is pushing the lie. Like they pushed the lie about what Trump said about Charleston. Trump wasn't referring to the neo-Nazis when he said they were good people. That's a lie. That's a provable lie. But they're still pushing it. Trump didn't tell people to go and invade the Capitol building. That's a lie. But they're still pushing it. Trump called for peace. Peaceful protest. We're not the ones trying to destroy this country. We really aren't. Regardless of the lies put forth by the left-wing media. This is absolute nonsense. But we're allowing the lies to continue. We're allowing the media to push a socialist agenda. I'm done for the day. I'm done. I've got to go to work this afternoon, and I've got to get myself calmed down. It's almost 11 o'clock my time. And with what's going on, this is not what we are here for. Why are we allowing the press to lie? But the bigger question is how do we stop them from lying? How do we stop them? They've got the First Amendment right to spread whatever lies they want. We can't just go in and tear them down. We can't go in and silence them. So there is no, I don't know. This is where I'm at a loss. How can we counteract the lies by the left? I honestly don't know. I honestly don't know how we do it. We can't get the word out. We don't have that giant megaphone. Fox News is no longer a right of center news. Their commentary for parts of it is right of center, but the news portion is no longer right of center. It hasn't been in 5 years. We're not being able to get out the word, the truth as that's there. At least I don't know how we're going to get it out there. The mass media is aligned against the truth. They've got their agenda. And their agenda is to push liberal, far left policies. And that is going to cause the downfall of this country. At one time, when this country was great, it wasn't because of far left government policies. It wasn't because of a lot of centralized government policies. It was because of one idea. And it was the idea that, while not original to, was spoken most clearly by John F. Kennedy, a Democrat. Ask not what your country can do for you, but ask what you can do for your country. A very simple statement. Don't ask the country, don't ask the government, don't ask for handouts. Don't ask the government to help you survive. Don't ask the government to make your life easier. It's our job to work. It's our job to support ourselves. It's our job to make the country better, to make the country strong. And as long as the government works within the constraints, well, hey, Neil. I'm sorry. Morning, nobody, not me. Yeah, I've been up for about 50 minutes now, but yeah, this stuff just I fear. I have an honest fear right now. The government money press is going brat. It's spitting out money faster than an A-10 shoots out 20 mil or 50 mil bullets. And if you've ever seen an A-10 in action, you don't want to be on the receiving end of that. The left is pushing for the government to support everybody. But they're not asking, it's the reverse of Kennedy. Ask what your country can do for you and don't ask what you can do for your country. Be a freeloader. Take. Take from the government property. The A-10's your favorite plane. Mine's still the F-15. The A-10 is an amazing aircraft. And when they were talking about phasing that out, I was like, you've got to be kidding me. There's not another aircraft in the world to match up to the A-10. That's one of the few things about the Air Force the Army likes, is having that A-10 right there with them. Low, slow, and mean. But the Constitution, why the government? Why? I don't. Why Obama said the Constitution was a list of negative rights. Well, it's negative rights for the government. It constrained the government. It it's supposed to the Constitution outlines what the federal government is allowed to do. And they're freely admitting that they're finding ways to work around the Bill of Rights. By allowing private companies, going in partnership with private companies to spy on us. And the media is going to sit there and say, well, they're spying on these right-wingers, so we don't care. That'll make our goal, that'll help us reach our goals. So we don't care that they're spying on right-wingers. It's the right-wing domestic terrorists that's a big problem. It's not the right-wing domestic terrorists that are torching buildings, that are making Chaz zones. That's left-wingers doing all that. But that's being ignored by the media because that's what they want. This is something it's been an hour now and I'm still on the same subject. And I don't see a way out. I don't see a way for us as Americans to go back to the federal government being constrained by the Constitution. Not with the media supporting them and doing it. Nobody, you're right. They've been going after the Second Amendment now for a couple of decades. Now they're going after the Fourth. The Third Amendment, I think, is pretty safe. I don't think they're planning on quartering troops anytime soon. And the First Amendment, well, as long as the media is supporting them, as long as the mass media is supporting them, let's say, they've got no problem with destroying conservative media. And how are they doing that? By getting their lackeys in the left-wing media to call them bullshit factories. and propagandizing against them, and government employees ridiculing them. I don't want to see an armed revolution. I don't. I don't want to see another civil war in this country. I don't want to see another brother against brother, neighbor against neighbor. I don't want to see Americans shedding the blood of other Americans over a political ideology. It happened once. I don't want to see it happening again. But we're being pushed so far left. We've got sitting members of the House, and not just one or two, but a dozen or more, pushing pure socialism and communism on us. Advocating for policies straight from the Marxist handbook. Yeah, I know you didn't say armed, Neil, and I'm not saying, and I didn't mean to insinuate that you did, but that would be the end result of any kind of a revolution. You should know that. As much as we wouldn't want it. I mean, we've got an armed revolution right now in Portland. They're not shooting guns, but throwing Molotov cocktails. It's not that much of a difference. They're just using fire as their weapon instead of using bullets. We're heading down that path. Unfortunately, I really believe I mean, at this point, I don't see. It's either we're going to peacefully submit into the Marxist doctrine and become a socialist country by electing more people like AOC and Ilhan Omar and the rest of them people, Bernie. Harlan Ellison, not Harlan Ellison. What am I doing? Or he'd come up out of his grave and smack me for calling him a communist. But the Ellison, the AG there in Minnesota. But no, we're in some forms of trouble. And this whole, and I'm honestly getting to the point to believe, because of how the CDC has suddenly garnered powers that it never had before. Who was it that once said, never let a crisis go to waste? I think this whole COVID thing now is being, is being used by the left to push their agenda. You're right. They're going, and the way they're working towards that is that compact that I think about 10 or 15 states have joined, that once they have enough electoral votes between them to elect a president, that all their electoral votes will automatically go to the populist winner, regardless of how the people within the states voted. California's part of it. Nevada's part of it. I think New Mexico is part of it. That's how they're going to get rid of the Electoral College, if they get enough states to sign in on that. But unfortunately, with California, did California lose a member of the House like New York did? I don't remember if California was one of the states that lost a seat in the House, because Texas picked up 2, Florida picked up 1, Ohio lost 1, West Virginia, was it West Virginia or Virginia that either picked up or lost 1? But that's how they can get rid of, that's how they're working to get rid of the Constitution, or get rid of the Electoral College. Because I don't see them being able to push a constitutional amendment through to change it. And here's what, and again, this goes back to another problem that I've yelped about for a long time, is the schools do not teach that this country is a union of 50 sovereign states, that each state is supposed to be a power unto itself, with the federal government only being a cohesive force. I think what happened with you said, the right didn't cower after the 6th, we'd be doing better at this point in time. I think what happened is so many people were so shocked at what happened on the 6th. And this time by people supposedly on our side. I would never think about going into the Capitol building and causing destruction. And I wouldn't want anybody who agrees with me politically to go into the Capitol building and cause destruction. I don't want ever to be that kind of actions taken on my behalf or my political ideology behalf. And so many of us, a lot of people tried to excuse it. People like me, I wasn't trying to excuse it. I said it was wrong, but I said it was no different than what's happened in the past and by left-wing groups, and it needs to be handled the same way as it was done as when it happened by left-wing groups. But it's not even being handled the way current crimes are being handled, crimes being committed by left-wing groups. It's not being described by the media in the same way. And when they start comparing the former president of the United States, to being like Obama, or I'm sorry, Obama, Osama bin Laden, and that's what they're doing. They're calling him the same, saying that he's no different than bin Laden was doing in leading jihadist attacks. That's not, that's pushing a political narrative. That's, you're right. How the right was portrayed afterwards is why the right has silenced themselves. Because that's not how they portrayed it. This is not us. But if you go, but again, how do you fight the media? How do you fight a cohesive battle with the media when the media itself is able to join forces? The New York Times, CNN, ABC, NBC, CBS, when they start all pushing the same message and effectively silencing anyone who opposes them, I don't see how you fight them. I don't see how you can fight such a mammoth propaganda mill. That was the phrase I've been looking for. The media has become a propaganda mill for the Democratic Party. Right? Face-to-face conversations with people, you're right. That changes the mind one-to-one. Meanwhile, you've got millions of people being lied to by the media on a nightly basis, and they're believing the media because they hear the same thing over and over and over again. You want somebody to believe a lie, just keep telling that lie over and over and over again, and soon it becomes within people's minds the truth. It's like the lie about what Trump said after Charleston. The lie that he said there was good people on both sides, and he was talking about the neo-Nazis that were there. That's not what he was talking about. But the media has pushed that lie now to where a lot of people, that's the truth. The media pushed the lie that Trump said to drink bleach. That's not what Trump said. But the media has pushed that lie so often and for so long now that people swear they heard Trump say it. And a face-to-face conversation can't overturn the mass media. Face-to-face can only change one mind at a time. It doesn't have the reach that the mass media has. And this is where, and again, we allowed this to happen. We've done it to ourselves. I don't know what you're saying nope to. The delay, I don't understand what I don't know what you said nope to there, Neil. But how do we get the media back? How do we get CNN back to even resembling what they were 30 years ago when Ted Turner first started it? Yeah, okay. The face-to-face is effective. Face-to-face can be effective on a one-to-one basis, but it's not effective enough to change the masses' minds. It's not there. So again, it's like when I was studying journalism. The instructors were saying that you've got to be conscious about your own bias. You've got to be conscious about how you're reporting, that you're not shading the truth, that you're reporting the facts and all of the facts. You're reporting on this so people can make up their minds. You're not trying to persuade somebody to your way of thinking. You want to persuade somebody, become a commentator. Don't be a news reporter. Don't be a journalist. But journalism now is about making people, it's about persuading people to hate other people based upon their white skin, to based upon their being a white male. It's there to make people hate other people based upon their political ideology. If you are a conservative, you are a fascist. You are according to CNN, you're a jihadist. You're worse than a jihadist. According to CNN. According to CNN, it's great that the government finds ways around the Fourth Amendment. Good point, nobody. Nobody, not me. Good point. You have to have people that are actually open-minded enough and willing to talk to you. Not enough people want to know what's actually going on because they've got so much going on in their own lives. A majority, and I don't know if I can even say that anymore, but large numbers of people, what used to be a majority of people, we were more concerned about our lives. Going to work every day, going to church on the weekends, supporting our families, raising our children, paying our local taxes. Yeah, you're right about that, Neil. Let me stand close to you and wave this shiny object. Yep. Distractions. But that piece by CNN on how they turn around and call everybody that's conservative as jihadists. Or worse than jihadists. Comparing Trump to bin Laden. Demanding that social media silence anybody who doesn't agree with their policies. Silence the opposition. They're not talking about silencing or monitoring left-wing groups. They're talking about silencing and moderating conservatives. Lois Lerner. That name ought to bring back some memories. Lois Lerner worked at the IRS. Remember how she shut down conservative groups? She made them spend years trying to get their IRS paperwork done correctly. Anybody that was wanting to set up groups to oppose Obama, well, they weaponized the IRS against them, and that silenced those groups. There was a temporary outcry, a few weeks, and then it was forgotten about. The media let it go. That's why I'm saying I'm just an old man yelling at the sky right now. Because that's all I'm doing. I'm just yelling at the sky. I'm saying the only people going to listen to me are people who maybe somewhat agree with me. I may get 10 people. I think I got 10 people watching one of my videos, which is fine. But that's 10 people who have a tendency to agree with me one way or another. There's not anybody who disagrees with me going to spend much time listening to me. I'm not going to change any minds doing this. And I realize that. I acknowledge that. I'm just that old man shaking my fist at the sky, yelling at it and saying, why are we doing this? Why is this happening? Why can't we stop it? And I know why we can't stop it. Because we don't have the voice in the media, and we're not willing to burn the country down to make the changes. The left is willing to burn the country down. They're willing to destroy this country to make the changes they want made. They're willing to burn this country to ashes in order to get what they want. And that's something we're not willing to do. I'm not willing to do. I'm not willing to burn the country down to make the changes I want to see made, or to prevent the changes from happening that I don't want to see. But they are. They are willing. Yesterday, the wife asked me how long I'd been online talking, and it was like 2 hours and 45 minutes. And she asked me, well, didn't you run out of things to say? And I told her, no, I probably could have talked another 2 hours and 45 minutes. That's how concerned I am about what's going on. She's asked me why I don't run for local politics, local offices. I've got too much, and I've done opposition research into me would destroy my family. But what kind of defense, Neil? What kind of defense? is there to be out there? What kind of defense is there to it? We can't. And what good is a defense? We almost need to go on the offense to stop what's happening. I think it's beyond a defensive maneuvers at this point. I really do. How much time is there? How much time is there to making things work right? Well, we're all being careful with our words because our words can be used against us so easily. And there's people out there willing to use our words against us, regardless of what. We are so defensive right now because we are, again, we're not willing to destroy the country, to burn it to ashes, to get what we want. That's not what we're about. But there's too many groups that are. They're willing to destroy an individual. They're willing to lie. They're telling lies about a president of the United States, and they told lies about him for 4 years and got away with it. And they're continuing to get away with it. They're lying about the person that's sitting in the Oval Office right now. They lied about him for over a year, and they've gotten away with it. How? We don't have the things in our ammunition that they've got. We're not willing to lie. We're not willing to burn things down to get what we want. We're not willing to destroy. We're not willing to do the things that they're willing to do because that's not in our nature. That's not what we are about. We don't want to tear things up. We want to build up, not destroy. They're willing to destroy. I'm not going to go so far as to say, again, I'm no angel. I'm no angel. And I'm not going to say the angels are on my side. I'm not going to say that anybody is an angel. Nobody, not me, you're right. Moral people or people with a conscience are at a disadvantage against those who are immoral or don't have a conscience. You're right. We don't want to see things get torn up, destroyed, and absolutely taken down to ashes. And now But I don't see how the end zone is going to be anywhere else but that. This country is going to be destroyed and taken down to the ashes. And the left are going to be the ones to do it. The left are going to be the ones to absolutely destroy us. They're going to either destroy us by getting their way, or they're going to destroy us to get their way. But no matter what happens, I don't see a way out for this country right now unless there's a massive, massive worldwide event that forces a change. The way that this coronavirus has changed the world, and not necessarily for the better. But there's going to have to be I believe there's going to have to be a massive event to do it, to get things back. And it may even be another civil war. It may be a destruction of the country. States succeeding. We already see states, the left wing started with their sanctuary cities and their sanctuary states, where they refused to cooperate with the federal government on immigration laws. Then the courts upheld it. Well, now some states are becoming sanctuary states and sanctuary cities against federal gun laws. And if there's going to be consistency by the courts, those are going to have to be upheld. So the country is starting to divide itself. The country is starting to no longer be a union of states working together for the common good of everybody. This hyperinflation, but how many people, you're right, hyperinflation, which, prices, gas has gone up in some places 65, 70 cents a gallon in the past 100 days. That increases the cost of all goods. And then with Biden promising to increase corporate taxes, that's going to also further increase the price of goods. And then people are already having to make choices on what to buy. Well, we can't buy this. We can't buy this food. We can't buy this. We can't buy that. Or, well, instead of buying this healthy item that costs twice as much as this unhealthy item, but both of them fill your belly. The left has a monopoly on reality. A catastrophic event would only help them. It would depend on what type of catastrophic event it would be. If it would be a catastrophic event that forced authorities down to the cities or state levels and away from the federal level, the left would lose. if it would be a severe catastrophic event that the federal government stepped in and took control, then the left wouldn't lose. It all depends on exactly what kind of catastrophic event it was and how bad it was. Again, I don't want to see that kind of catastrophic event. I don't want to see people having to go to bed hungry. I don't want to see people having these kind of problems. They're not good for the country. But what the left is doing right now isn't good for the country either. So this is all, I have no idea. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do. Because it seems all the options lead to the same thing. We don't really have a whole lot of options right now, it looks like. Most of the options I see or that I see lead to destruction. You know, something, what was that in the Avengers movie? Doctor Strange is sitting there with his little time machine and went through a couple of million outcomes and only found one outcome that saved the world, saved the universe, and it caused the death of Tony Stark. Maybe that's what we are going to come down to where one person, the death of one person is what's going to be needed to save us. I should hope not. I should hope that's not what it is. And I'm not a doom and gloomer. I'm really not. But I'm just not smart enough to see a way out of this. So hence, what am I doing? Old man yelling at the sky. I want to see this country back to the way I remember it was through my more innocent eyes 40 years ago. Yes, even after 40 years ago, that was the right, the Nixon, Ford, Carter, Reagan time period. Reagan was doing a lot to try to save this country. I've been fighting the journalism issue now for, God, let's put it this way. I don't know if you ever remember GeoCities. I had a blog on GeoCities back when the media MRC was getting started. I tried to become a opinion writer for them. That's 30 some years ago. We need another Reagan in office. We need another. Trump's problem Trump had Reagan's enthusiasm for the country. Sadly, he did not have Trump's oratory skills. And while the media was more or less lined up against Reagan, Sam Donaldson being head first and foremost in that group, journalism at that time was more constrained in what they were doing. Journalism was more little tightly wound. I mean, it's the book All the President's Men. If that were to happen today, the New York Times wouldn't be sitting there saying you don't have enough evidence of this and redlining half the story because they didn't have enough supportive evidence for the story. If anything, they said, well, make it more, make it more, make it more. Beef this up. Throw another word salad in here. Journalism is no longer constrained. The federal government is no longer constrained. Another one of Trump's problems was having Paul Ryan in as the House Speaker of the House. Paul Ryan was not going to do anything to help Trump. People ask, well, Trump had a Republican in the House and Senate. Why didn't he get things done? Well, when you have Paul Ryan sitting there controlling the House and not allowing bills to come forward, that is going to stop the president. A president should only be allowed to do so much without legislation being put before him. And he couldn't do a whole lot. Trump was one of those people who felt that he was constrained by the Constitution. So he didn't try to go extra constitutional means very often. That's why the left was, when the pandemic actually came, and the left was mad at him for not trying to garner more power onto himself. Because Trump was trying to live within not only the words of the Constitution, but the spirit of the Constitution. And I have to give Trump a lot of credit for that. You're right. Trump didn't have a Gingrich in this House to help him out and get bills started and help clear the agenda. That's what he needed. He needed somebody to support him in the House. And he didn't have it with Speaker Ryan. He just didn't have it. Ryan was a never Trumper. Ryan hated Trump. Or if he didn't hate him, had a strong dislike for him. But again, I grew up with Kent State. Kent State happened in my backyard. Trump made a lot of mistakes in picking people to work with him. You're right. And he, not being a professional politician, he didn't know, he chose people that that he didn't know who he could trust. And he made mistakes with some of his choices, because he wasn't a professional politician. He hadn't been fighting down and dirty in Washington, D.C., and knowing all the secret little enclaves of individuals. And that became very apparent when people within the government started posting videos of themselves actively working against him on government time. People were bragging about how they were going to stop Trump from within. And that hurt. That hurt him badly. It hurt him badly that the leadership of the different agencies didn't step in and punish those people that made the videos. At least attempt to make it look like the government was working as it should be. But we don't have that anymore. We don't have a lot of this of agencies. The only people the agencies hold to account are people on the conservative side. Look at the ads the CIA just put out. Oh my God. Talk about cringe fest. I couldn't watch them all. I could only watch a few, 20 seconds or so of each one. I don't think I watched any of them out on its entirety. About the gay librarian and how wonderful it was to work in the CIA, how they could bring their whole selves to work in the CIA. And yeah, Neil, you're right. The military that actively lied to Trump. And what happened? Nothing. Nothing. There was no repercussions for that. You can have the best man or woman in the world sitting in there as president. And if the people around him, even not immediately around him, but 6, 7, 8 points away from him, degrees of separation away from him, if those people aren't supporting him the way they're supposed to support the president, then the president can't make the changes or that they want to make. They can't do the policies they want to make. Entrenched bureaucrats are a power all to their own. You're right. And these are supposed to be our public servants. These are supposed to be the people that are there to serve us. They're not there to serve us. They're there for their own little fiefdoms, their own little agendas. They couldn't care less about us. They're only concerned about what they can get out of it, what kind of power they can garner for themselves. Power is, it's not an evil thing, but it leads to a lot of evil. And these bureaucrats, again, the Lerner woman, she had the power to destroy the opposition to Obama. And she did. Lois Lerner took the power that she had and used it to destroy opposition to Obama so that he could get reelected and his agenda go through. And she wasn't held responsible for it. She was rewarded for it. And the left wants to claim that this stuff never happened. It doesn't happen. It does happen. There is a deep state that worked against Trump from the beginning. The media was against Trump from the beginning. I'm kind of curious, Neil, what you mean by that, because the voter base are the ones who vote for the politicians. That politician can't be in there without the base support voting for him. And that's why I push the blame ultimately back on the American people. We did this to ourselves because we're the ones that continually vote in the Nancy Pelosi's, the Mitch McConnells, the Schumers, the Naglers, the Adam Schiffs. If they weren't voted back into office, that they wouldn't have done what they've done. But the politicians do represent their voter base. Do you think Maxine Waters doesn't garner the support from the base and push her? She gets them wound up with her racist rhetoric. You think Schumer isn't getting a lot of support from his base? With his Save the Stages and now the other stuff that he's starting to push? You think that's not there to benefit his base? We've done this to ourselves. They may not be politically active enough, but they're selfish enough to hear Maxine Waters say that it's those evil Republicans are responsible for why you live the way you do. So it's evil Republicans that are doing this to you. It's the evil Republicans, those evil white devils who do this. I'm going to get you more money from the government. I'm going to get you better housing from the government. I'm going to get you more food from the government. That's what they hear from Maxine Waters. That's what they hear from Schumer. I don't know what they hear from Schiff, but that's what they hear from Pelosi. I wish I could prove you wrong on that. Not me. No, nobody, not me. I wish I could prove you wrong. Because I do want to believe maybe I'm deluding myself, but I do want to believe that most people vote for who they think is the best person, not necessarily for the party. But I mean, yeah, the party is important because people do identify with the party. Well, I'm glad you don't mind explaining because, I mean, this is a conversation. At least at this point now, it's a conversation. I've had my little diatribe. At this point, if a conversation is great. I just think, but then maybe it's because of the way I do it. Maybe it's because I actually take time. I mean, even for voting for judges for local and state courts here in Florida, I take the time to review the judges and their cases and how they've decided certain cases and what their reasoning behind them were. Now, I've voted against judges. I've voted for judges. I've voted for and against Republicans. I have voted for Democrats. We used to have a tax lady here that was simply amazing. And she was a Democrat, but she ran the tax office like you wouldn't believe. She was simply amazing in that job. And I didn't mind voting for her at all because she did the job and did it exceptionally well. Then we had a supervisor of elections that was a Democrat that was really good. Then we got a Republican in there that was absolutely crappy at the job, and I voted against them. Fortunately, they lost out in the primaries. And then now we've gotten in a good supervisor of elections. But I would like to know more about, I mean, I can see people being lazy and just voting party. I can see that. And in some states, isn't there, don't some, I've been a long time. I mean, I don't know how every state does their balloting, but don't some states actually have it to where you just, automatically you push one button or mark one square and it automatically you cast a vote for every person within a party, straight party ticket? I think there's some states that still allow that. And anybody that votes straight party ticket automatically like that, I've got concerns about them. Wow, growing up in Chicago, that was fun. I'll bet that was fun at least. Now this, well, my hometown up until the late '70s was basically Democratic enclave, but it was farming town. It was a union town. People that didn't work on the farms were uh, worked in machine shops and such, and they were unionized. But this was the old style unions. They didn't go on strike, and if somebody needed to be fired for malfeasance or because they weren't doing the job right, then the union, stood behind the firing. The union actually tried to work with the guys to keep them from getting fired at first. But after a while, the union would give up on them and let them get fired. So this was the old style union. The union leaders in the towns that I grew up in that local area, the union leaders didn't live in, at the time, $100,000 house while everybody else lived in $25,000 and $30,000, $40,000 homes. They lived in the same style home everybody else lived in. They didn't have massive bank accounts. They didn't have Cadillacs, brand new Cadillacs. If they drove a Cadillac, it was 5-10 years old. That was the type of democratic town I grew up in. Everybody were Democrats for the most part. Nobody ever ran as a Republican. Always race, religion, and politics. Now, it doesn't seem like anything's changed since then, has it? Morning, Becca. Glad to see you. Yeah, the first hour of this was me yelling about the CNN article and news video. No, I'm not beat down when it comes to this. I'm discouraged right now. I am very discouraged. This CNN thing this morning I come across it started coming across it last night. I started hearing stories about it, but I didn't actually read the article and such until this morning. Because last night, I spent the evening with my wife for the most part. Made up, I got a little wild hair while I was cooking. We're just going to have hamburgers and coleslaw for supper. And now when I make up a hamburger, it's ground beef, pork, and such, and bacons and onions. Well, I decided I got a little wild hair for some reason, threw a bunch of brown sugar in with the bacon and red onion that I had going in the skillet, and turned the heat down and let it cook for about 20 minutes. And of course, fried up an egg over easy and put on top of that. And, oh my God, that extra, it didn't make the burger sweeter, but it sure added some new tones to it. Well, Becca, I hope you had success in the courthouse. I hope you had some successes while you were there. But yeah, no, I can understand what you're saying there. I mean, 20 years, let's see. Again, I mean, I've been discussing politics online since the early 80s, since mid 80s, 1984. It's the first time I went online. And I've been involved with political discussion online ever since. I was in some huge, Time used to have a huge board that I was on. It was a massive board. And I mean, I remember when Godwin's Rule came out. Well, that's Neil. That's why I'm saying I'm just an old man yelling at the sky. I'm 60, I'm 61, and I'm just yelling at the sky at this point. And I've been yelling at the sky since 1984 online. I mean, I can remember when Godwin's rule come out, once you invoke Nazi, first person to invoke Nazis loses the argument. Because just like now, the left loves to accuse anybody and everybody that disagrees with them of being a Nazi. Well, at 36, Neil, you've been out there long enough to know what's going on. And you've still got a lot of years left to fight in you. You got another 30 years left to fight in you. All right, so you've been doing it as long as I've been doing it. I've been doing it, like I said, when I got back from Germany in 84, that's when I got online for the first time. And I've been doing it ever since. Now, this is the first time I've done it with voice, doing it on here. But I like to see that there are people half my age taking up the battle on my side, more or less. I'm glad to see it. That means it's not completely lost. And your optimism is needed. Your optimism is needed on this, because we need people fresh with new ideas. My grandfather was in World War II. He was actually ended up being a brigadier general. And when we'd go to visit him, and if he had the right amount of alcohol in his system, he would tell us stories. And to the day he died, he still hated Germany and Germans. He never got over it. So people who lived it, and I think that's part of the problem, is history is dead to so many people now because they haven't lived through some of the things that had such a marked left their marks upon generations. I mean, the war in Afghanistan, people seem to have forgotten that Russia fought in Afghanistan for 20 some odd years before we did. Oh, wow. Oh, that would be some stories there. I hope that, and I can understand why it would happen, but I hope that your family's experiences haven't been lost to time. But I can understand why the stories could be lost to time, because people don't want to remember the horrors that happened, that they were exposed to. People don't want to remember the bad times. They want to remember the good times. Normal people. Some people thrive on reliving horrors. Most people don't, but there are those that do. And we've got to find, but it's those horrors that each generation needs to learn about and hopefully not experience for themselves. They don't want to face up to the horrors of their own ideology. They don't want to, they want to say, well, it wasn't done correctly. We'll do it right. We know how to make this work. They don't seem to understand that if something has been tried 60, 70, 80 times in the past and it's always ended up the same way, that it's still going to end up the same way. The human mind, human psychology has not changed that much. People who want power are going to get and can garner the power are going to do everything they can to protect their power. And they will find ways to, when I was growing up, one of the preachers we had used to say that a person's conscience was like a square with very sharp edges. And that those sharp edges is what stopped people from doing things, because your conscience would rub you and hurt you and make you, you didn't want to feel that pain from your conscience. But as in some people, they would find excuses for their actions. And every time they found an excuse for their actions that was wrong, it would round those squares, those corners, those sharp edges off a bit. And the more times they did excuses, the more those sharp edges got rounded off and softened up. To soon, they'd have like a billiard ball for a conscience. There'd be nothing sharp there. It'd be just round and smooth, to where there would be nothing there to tell them that they had done wrong. And that's what's going on with these ideologies now, is they find excuses for what's going on in the past. We need to be reminded about what we've done wrong in the past. We need to know what's gone wrong. Hey, Shio, glad to see you, buddy. You're right. We need to know what we've done wrong in the past. We need, people need to be aware of the mistakes we've made in the past. That's the only way people can grow. You learn that stoves are hot, so you don't touch that hot stove anymore. You learn how to walk without stumbling and tripling until you've had too much to drink. You learn through getting hurt, and then once you've been hurt, you learn not to do that, or how to do things right. And if you don't teach the bad things that's happened in history, not hold it against the people, not hold it against the descendants of those who did the bad things, Today's Germans aren't responsible for what happened in the 1930s and 40s. Shio, that's my job. But we've all got to learn from our mistakes in the past. And as long as we keep repeating them, the same things are going to happen. And we're going to end up with a communist leader in the Oval Office. We're going to end up with that if we're not careful, because we haven't learned or haven't taught these people the mistakes of what's happened under socialism in the past. We've got people thinking that they can do it better. The mistakes weren't being taught. No, Nil's not responsible for what happened in Mississippi in the 50s. Either 1950 or 18. Nope. Nil's not responsible. I'm not responsible for what happened in Ireland during the Great Potato Famine. I'm not responsible for what happened in Massachusetts. No, Neil, I have to disagree with you. We're not under full communist rule, but we're getting there. We're putting the people in the House and Senate that believe in it. Every time you hear Omar or Presley start talking about using the government as employer of last resort, that is communism. Yeah, it doesn't take any potatoes. You'll starve without them. But we've got this socialists, and they're not even ashamed of calling for it. They're not even ashamed for what they're doing. This morning, Omar's out there saying basically that that's what she's pushing for. We're not helping we're not, as long as we keep putting people into office that believe in these things. And this is where our problem is about importing refugees. We're importing people. Next year, Biden wants to bring in 62,000 refugees. These aren't Americans. They're not Americans. They're refugees from other countries with different forms of governments. They believe in different things. Omar is a prime example of it. She doesn't believe in the United States as it is. She doesn't believe in a representative, constitutional representative government. She doesn't believe in that. She's a socialist. That's how she was brought up. They don't. But as we bring in all these refugees that don't believe in our form of government, they only believe in the handouts. Then, as long as that's what we're importing, and that's what their children get born here and are born as U.S. citizens, then that's what gets elected into office. I'm sorry, Shio, did I ruin your joke? These are where our problems are. We are electing these people into office. And like like the meme says, you can vote in socialists, you just can't vote them out once they take over. You're right. Nobody, not me. We're not socialists. Not yet. But we're getting them elected into office. We're getting them elected into state offices. We're getting them elected into city governments. We're getting them elected into federal government. Go to Dearborn. Go to go to Dearborn. A couple years ago, I was reading an article written by a young couple that were traveling across the country, trying to visit all 50 states. They went to Dearborn and they had to go to see a doctor. So they went into a walk-in clinic. And the woman was being berated for sitting on the wrong side of the clinic. She accidentally sat down on the men's side. And then she was wearing shorts, and oh my God, why was she exposing all of her skin? It was really an interesting read about their treatment there and how badly it had gone over. Dearborn is not the Dearborn that it was in the 1950s. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, if you want me to watch it, go ahead and send it to me. I'll watch almost anything. That's one thing about being a 20-year military. Your skin got tough. You didn't survive 20 years in my career field with that. So let's see here. Let me open that link up in a new tab. YouTube video. Oh, hey, Neil? Do you mind if I put that out? Do you mind if I share that with everybody? Okay, well, let me go ahead and share that then. Come back over here. Wait a minute. I want to come here. Share screen, Chrome tab. There we go. Share. I remember this. Yes, I remember this. This was huge back then. Oh, I didn't have the sound up high enough. Okay, let me. Still no audio? Okay, I don't understand what's going on. I've got the volume up on that full blast. Oops. Share screen, Chrome tab. Oh, okay, I see it now.
Ward 3 Jackson City Councilman Kenneth Stokes feels police from other cities are reckless when they chase misdemeanor suspects into Jackson. He wants to throw rocks, bricks, and bottles at these officers. The councilman met with reporters today.
Is that coming through now? Was that audio coming through now? Okay, so let me come back here, back that up a little bit.
Bricks and bottles at these officers. The councilman met with reporters today and said such action will send a stern message to officers who want to track down young men who steal bubble gum.
What I suggest, we get the black leadership together, and as these jurisdictions come into Jackson, we throw rocks and bricks and bottles at them. That'll send the message, we don't want you in here.
Stokes says if the law allows outside jurisdictions to chase misdemeanor offenders into Jackson, then the law needs to be changed.
Yeah, I remember when that happened. Yeah, that was a huge story. Yeah, that's where you're at now, Neil. That's amazing. That was from your local area. Oh, well, that means then when I did, I don't even I'd close that screen. When I shared the CNN story earlier that you guys couldn't hear, the audio didn't come through on that from that video clip I played, to where CNN was interviewing a former agent, federal agent, blaming Trump for comparing Trump to bin Laden. Well, I'm sorry I screwed that up. I'll know better next time. Oh, this is getting good. I learned something else here today. I'm still learning. Yep, it's 12:30. I've got to start getting ready to go to work. My alarm will be going off here in about 6 minutes. And that's my hour and a half till I got to leave for work. Oh, really? Did he ever get the stuff passed that he wanted passed? The laws changed? Did he ever get out there and throw bricks and bottles and such at the cops? Did he ever do as he said he wanted to do and should be done? I mean, because of the delay, I'll say that he never did do any of it. So, Becca, I appreciate y'all. I appreciate all y'all stopping in and listening to me yell at the sky. Well, I'm glad nobody took him up on it. But, talk about inciting violence. He was inciting violence on television during an interview. He's lucky nobody took him up on it. Well, he was lucky that nobody took him up on it. The state AG could have filed charges against him. But anyway, thank you all for stopping in. I appreciate it. Nil, Shio, Mr. Scott. I'm sorry, Mr. Scott. I didn't greet you when you came in. I apologize. Ryan Waters was in. Professor Chaos was in. Not me. Nobody, not me. I appreciate all you guys coming in. And like I've always said, y'all want to, y'all got a microphone and a way to talk, let me know. I'll be more glad to let you set in. But I will talk at y'all later on. I'll talk with you. And someday I hope I can use my happy shroom from the start. I can see now why Monkey sings towards the end while he's shutting things down, sort of fills the dead air. But y'all be good now.